Hey, I'm recording. Let's test it. See if it's actually recording. Yeah, you can see the projector and it's all like, woo, I'm crazy.
It's the barbershop mirror.
Yeah, it's the barbershop mirror thing. So, if you are a student of mine, you know where my sCCC.premiumdw.com website lives. You also know that it needs to be updated to being responsive. I know that, right? I'll get there, especially now that Google is prioritizing or deprioritizing non-responsive websites. But here's how to get to I'm recording all this on my Premium Design Works YouTube page, right? So I actually have content on that page. So this link right up here, I guess I could do it this way. This link right up here, because hopefully I'm recording and you can see that I'm doing it. So if you click on that link right there, you will go to my business website. There is the YouTube link under social. So I set up, finally I broke down and realized that, Google is, since they are in charge of Google, since Google runs Google, and Google is a search engine, I wonder if having a Google Plus page or a YouTube page affects search engine optimization. Yes, it does. Right. Not very much, but a little bit. So what I did was I made a Google Plus page and I had to register and verify it. I also made a YouTube page just for shits and giggles. I use bad language, everybody. So just for shits and giggles, and I don't have any content on there. But if you go to my YouTube page, you can see that, look at that. I am streaming WEB170 live right now. How exciting. So this is where then basically what I'm going to be doing is just recording WEB170 lectures. I may go back and edit the specifics, like give it a better description and that kind of stuff. But that's where you can access what we're doing in here. Fair enough?
Are you doing this for other classes?
No, I am not going to be doing it for design classes because, right?
This way we can go back and load.
True,
look at the code.
True, but I'm only going to be doing it for coding. I'm hesitant to have even this stuff out there on the web because I want people to show up for class. That's my primary concern. But the other concern is I use a lot of bad language, and I don't want that presented to anybody that can fire me. No. That's not the real reason. I just, design classes. I don't want to worry about recording, show up and take notes, right? That's what I had to do. Back in my day, I actually took notes. You should too. So anyway, that's where this will be. That being said, I can close that. We are going to, if we take a look at the schedule, today, talk about, here's the thing, what I'm going to be trying to do, right? For the first few weeks, I'm going to be trying to stuff, hopefully not too much content in here, but hopefully we can get through installing WordPress to your server, setting up and customizing WordPress options, and maybe even get into installing and using a pre-developed WordPress theme today. Hopefully by the end of the week we'll get through installing and using plugins, and then you will have to, I may or may not have the install and set up WordPress assignment completely written up, but basically by the end of the week you should have WordPress installed with your database, etc. We are going to go a long way around installing your database. We are not going to do the one-click way. I want you to specifically learn the long and tedious way because when it comes to migrating a website from one server to another, you are going to need to know how to set up a database and connect to that database, right? So when you migrate from one server to another, did you use that WP Migrate plugin? No, how did you do it? Manually? Okay. So basically when you take an install from one server, like your development server, and put it on said client server, what you are doing is you are pulling down the whole WordPress install, right? You are not going to be doing a one-click install on their server because then the database is not going to be configured correctly, right? What you're going to be doing is pulling down the whole component files, plugins, content, themes, and everything, uploads, etc., placing that on their server, right? And then exporting the database from your server, sanitizing the paths, right? The URL structures, etc., right? And importing that into their database, and then you will be connecting to their database, okay? Does that make sense? So today we are going to then, most of you are in DreamHost, yes?
Yes.
What was your question?
In order to install the WordPress, do I need to have the template already?
No.
Oh, so I mean, I don't have to make the.
You don't have to have your template.
Okay, good, because I need it.
So, yeah, we are going to then be, so we're going to be installing WordPress on your domain, right? You're not going to need your template for another couple of weeks because we're not going to start making your theme. So we are going to, when I say installing and using a plugin, creating content, creating the navigation and menus in WordPress, this is going to still be using the default 2015 theme for a couple of lectures, right? To kind of get to know just how WordPress works, etc. So you don't necessarily need to do what I did again today, but remember how I said that I loaded up. So it looks like we are, how many of you downloaded the code hints that okay. So those of you that are working on your own laptop already have it installed probably. Here it looks like when I installed that that plugin, that code hints extension, it looks like I had to reinstall it, right? They wiped it, yeah.
Where was that from?
So that file, the extension file, if you are on under WEB170 on my site, under resources, downloads, WordPress API, code hints, etc. for Adobe Dreamweaver. So that is something that you can download. When you download that,
Do we download it here at school or at home?
I downloaded it here.
Okay.
So that because I'm going to be working off of my student O drive here. So then in my Web170 folder, right, this is where in that folder I am then again storing an HTML folder, right? I am also storing the code hints so I don't have to re-download them every time. I can just install it from here. I also saved my site information. How many of you saved your site information and used that and how did that go for everybody? Pretty wicked awesome? You're going to do that over and over and over again? You think it's the best thing ever? Good. I don't mean put words in your mouth, right? So basically, what I did then was I connected to through Dreamweaver to my Web170. So here you can see in this Web170 folder, then on the remote server, I have, again, refreshing, index.html, stage.css, images folder. So again, what that looks like right now is.
So my Dreamweaver says I need to sign in.
Douglas? So if we go to my demo, web170.premiumdw.com, This then is my portal page, client staging area, whatever you want to call it. But one way, shape, or form, I want you guys to do this. And again, the requirements of your staging area, right? 1, I want to be able to view your templates. 2, remember, I want you to post both your templates and your prototype code on GitHub. So here's the other thing that I've done. I have created WEB170 Spring 2015. Everybody's name is here. Huh? Oh yeah, yours isn't because you still, yes, in a good way.
Yeah, obviously.
In a fabulous way, right? Yes, because you will then go through the system, and then you weren't through the system when I set this up. Okay, good. So basically, what I want to do is link to everybody's client staging area. Because here's what I want to do. I want to be able to go and take a look at your code for your templates when I'm grading them, to go through them, to make comments on them, or basically see that you're up to date, right? When we start getting into the actual coding the theme, I want to do things like make sure you actually wrote the loop in there, right? Versus presenting me hand-coded content, okay? So I'm going to be checking on stuff like that as we're going through assignments. So how many of you, again, familiar with GitHub, know how to post to GitHub, right? Again, on the Mac, hey, you download GitHub for Mac, you drag the folder over, you publish it. I mean, you have to sign up for a GitHub account. There is also GitHub for PC. I've never tried it, but how many of you feel like you're confident you can get up and running on GitHub without too much, right? Okay. If not, like I said, signing up for GitHub, downloading GitHub for either Mac or PC, the directions are out there. It shouldn't be too difficult. If you have problems with it, then we can, during lab times, get you set up. Again, I'm not going to be looking at your code here for a few weeks. So try to get yourself set up and get all the links set up. Okay. That being said, installing WordPress to your server. Okay. Again, what we want to do is we want to go the long way, specifically because, well, let's put it this way. If I was going to do a new WordPress site that was for me, myself, and I, right? Or even if I was going to, let's say, do that Jet City Improv website, the RIW website, etc., right? On my development servers, I'm going to do a one-click install. Okay, so what is a one-click install, you might be asking? How many of you are asking? Sure, great. See, I like when people actually ask. So on DreamHost, under goodies, one-click installs. Okay. I could go and say, one-click install, DreamHost, install to, select a domain, subfolder, right? I'm not going to do it right now, but if I did it, it would, funny enough, install WordPress, right? Put all the files on, in other words, when I say files, what's the key command, like on the Mac, command tab to go through the windows on a PC? So if I did a one-click install, what it would basically do is it would install, let's say I put it in a WordPress folder, right? It would unpack all the WordPress files, put them in a folder, and then it would install its own database and connect to its own database. So again, if I'm starting a project, right, like any one of those Jet City Improv, real trends, etc., I would basically just do one-click install, get up and running, and then start putting my template in there and developing my theme right away, right? But again, I do think it's important that we go the long way, because how many of you have ever set up a database before? How many of you have not set up a database before? Okay, a couple of you, okay? So I think it's important, it's an important step, especially for, you know, every time you're doing something, you're doing it within a new environment, right? So this time we're going to be doing it within the WordPress environment. So it's a new environment. I need to see where that database lives, ish, but more importantly, I need to connect to that database, okay? So what we're going to do here is WordPress.org. Okay, so under the, so this is the let's do it together kind of stuff. Is everybody ready to start kind of doing this stuff together?
Just
Great.
had to restart.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to change computers too because my Dreamweaver doesn't work.
So, Doug, you got it.
We need to sign in.
So this screenshot should take you to WordPress.org. And here's where we are going to, sure enough, download WordPress.org. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have two versions running. Okay, you need help back there, Timothy?
Yeah.
Okay, who are the other TAs? Jeff? Rose Jean is not here today.
I could also use the.
Find what site? Download WordPress? Okay, so on my,
Do you know why we need a sign-in required
for what?
for Dreamweaver for all Adobe? It won't let me get into any of the, I can't use Photoshop, Dreamweaver, or anything.
Are you logged into the school's computer?
Yep.
Have you paid your fees?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wait, what do you have issues with?
It won't let me get into the Dreamweaver.
It just takes forever to load.
No, it doesn't allow
No,
me.
it's asking for a sign-in.
Yeah.
What's going on?
I should never ask you that one there.
I should never ask you
I
for a
mean, you
sign-in.
could just use a self-appropriation of WinSCP and WordPress Plus. Downgrade a little bit, but.
Yeah, that shouldn't be. I would go to a different computer.
Okay.
Okay. Victoria, you found it. Okay. So let's make sure that everybody knows that again, you are going to have to see, isn't this fun? This is all being recorded. Yeah. So you can. Okay. So again, when you send the client staging area, for me, I'm going to link it up. Installing WordPress to your server. So every class period, here's what's going to happen. I have, to the best of my ability, written up step-by-step directions of what we're going to be doing on a daily basis. This is more for me than for you. Well, it's for both of us. In other words, I then have my little script right here. Okay, so like in my Web 300 class, I don't have as much of a step-by-step script. In the coding classes, I have a little bit more step-by-step script. So I might encourage you guys to kill some trees and print my lectures out so that you can then also take notes, right? I've seen people do that effectively at the class up at UW, right? Or I've also seen it where somebody has an iPad and then, you know, they're working on the computer and they have the lecture up on the iPad. So essentially what I'm saying is I'll be working from my lecture script so that should be in there. So here, download WordPress application. If you click on this screenshot, it will take you to then where it lives. Okay? So here's where WordPress.org, Encyclopedia WordPress. Right? So this is where we are going to download WordPress version 4.1.1. Okay? Notice though, or what we are not going to be downloading is, and again, if I say things that you're like, yeah, duh, Mike, we know that, tell me politely, right? Because again, I haven't gone through this class in a long, long time. So cut me some slack, Dawn, is what I'm saying, right? We're not going to be downloading a database, right? You are going to be creating a database on your service provider that then you are going to connect to. Does that make sense to everybody, right? So for instance, if I go back to my step 1, download the WordPress application, right? We are eventually going to be looking for a file called WP config sample, right? We are going to be renaming that, taking off the sample parts, and then we are going to be connecting to the database that we are going to be creating on DreamHost, right? Or wherever, is most everybody using DreamHost, like I said? Good, okay. If you're using whatever service provider, hopefully you know how to create a database on that service provider. And then what we're going to be doing is, if I take a look at the config sample, Doug, Jeff, what do you guys? Okay. What we are going to be doing then is connecting to the database, where we will have to put in the database name, the database user, the database password, host. In the DreamHost environment, we are not going to be using localhost. Okay. Character set, UTF-8, etc. So we are going to be doing name, user, password, and host. So maybe this is good that I'm kind of giving you the bigger overview of what we're doing here, right? Once we do that, it's this window. Oh, that's the and our install connects to our database, it's going to say, yay, we connected. Now what we need you to do is give it a title, give yourself a username, give yourself a password, and it's going to connect, right? Thereby, we are going to hopefully have, yay, success. Username and password, right? I'm just giving you the bigger overview right now, Al. Okay? And then once we're in the dashboard, we can edit our profile, and then we can move on to doing some of our settings. Okay? Make sense? So, like I said, it might be a good idea that you just look through even if it's 2 minutes before class, just kind of look through what we're doing for the day. Okay. That being said, download. Here we go. Finally, we're going to download this thing. So if I download this,
We're downloading WordPress now.
Downloading WordPress. So here's what I want to do, right? I am going to go and put this in my HTML folder, all right? You can currently see that I already have a WordPress folder in my HTML folder. That is my demo that I'm currently running. In other words, I'm going to have a demo that I'm doing week by week to have all my lecture notes. I'm not completely finished with that yet, right? Then I'm going to have a demo specific to Spring 15, right? So what I'm going to do is then have my one WordPress folder that's, in other words, you are going to keep just the name WordPress, okay? I am going to rename mine WordPress-SP15, so I know where we are, okay? So save in your HTML folder.
I'm sorry, I'm lost.
I'm totally lost, I'm sure, I'm waiting.
Unconfirmed download. Maybe I don't have space. I'm going to try to download it on the. Oh, there it is. Okay. So, how many of you have gotten to the point where you've downloaded WordPress into your HTML folder? Or you can download it wherever you want to. But basically, what I'm going to do is I've downloaded this. It's a zip file. I'm going to unzip it, right? Or it just unzipped for me, possibly.
No, I haven't unzipped it.
I'm going to unzip that, and then I'm going to throw the zip away, because I don't need the zip. Okay? So, extract all. And I am going to name mine WordPress-SP15, right? Again, it's still in my HTML folder, because the game is, what we're trying to do is, we are going to be publishing a WordPress folder to our server. Remember when we connected our site, we chose the HTML folder as our local folder to go with the remote, okay? Extract. There's not enough space. You've got to be kidding me. Really? Cancel. So if that's the case, then delete. I'm going to download this then on my desktop and move it. Because here's the thing. Now that I'm recording this, if I say something like, well, Seattle Central should give me more space, and you guys take that and tell them, this is what Mike said. It's right there on video.
Where do you want us to send that?
I don't know.
You have to sign a little form that we will not circulate any parts of the lecture.
Mike,
Yeah.
could I possibly see your file structure on your server?
So are we we're putting this on our server?
No.
Right now it's just
Right now, you're just putting it on the file.
I'm just, right now, so everybody, right now, I'm just downloading this locally.
So I can download it to my flash drive.
Yes. Okay. Downloaded it to my desktop. Let's see if I can put it in my folder now. Extract, WordPress, SP15, extract.
So where is this located? I'm sorry, because I was trying to fix it.
Under the lecture for today. I might just have to throw away some stuff on my student drive.
We got another business.
All right. Let's see, desktop. WordPress, SP15. I'm going to go to my O drive and I am going to delete some stuff. That 32 megabytes, visual designs. Let's get rid of that. All right. So what I want to do basically is, again, in my WEB170 folder, I have my HTML folder. I now want to put, now you guys, like I said, you guys are just going to have your WordPress folder in there, okay? You got it locally, okay? Now that we have it locally, we go to Dreamweaver, or whatever you're using, right? So if I'm local, go to my local view, and I refresh. In my case, I have my WordPress demo and my WordPress SP15, okay? So again, if I open up the remote server local, okay? On my remote server, Alan, take a look. Okay? On my remote server, currently, I have a WordPress folder under the root of my domain, right? So my domain is web170.premiumdw.com, okay? I want to have a WordPress folder there because WordPress is, I don't know, word on the street, let's say it like this, is you should give WordPress its own directory on your server. You can then, at a later date, create an index file at the root of your domain that points to the WordPress server or WordPress folder. So it'll look like it's at the root of your domain, okay? So you can develop in a subfolder, and then when you're ready to be live at the root of your domain, you can just setting and it'll be there. Chris.
Root of your domain or root of your server?
So where did you?
Root of your server, root of your domain, whatever. In other words, let's say it like this.
How did you get to this?
Okay. So root of your domain. Yeah, not the root of your server. So what I'm talking about then is.
How did you get there to that? I'm sorry.
Get where?
To that. In Dreamweaver. To the.
Doug?
She's talking about the expanded view where you see your server,
What?
you see your local.
Yeah, Jeff? Where's Jeff? What are you, Janelle, what are you talking about?
I'm trying to, so I can open it from Dreamweaver.
Have you connected to your site?
To my, I need to go to my site first?
Yeah, well, you need to connect, you need to be putting this somewhere. Jeff, you got her?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Downloading WordPress.
She's asking about connecting to her server. Okay. So, in other words, what we can do at a later date is, if I wanted this WordPress folder to act like it was at the root of wherever this was, I can. So if we use the Google machine to search for something like giving WordPress own directory, what you can basically do here is, let's say that your install lives in its own WordPress folder. You can have an index file at the roots of your directory, point to that WordPress folder. So it'll act like it is at, in other words, your URL will not say blah, blah, blah / WordPress. It'll be at the roots of your server or domain, okay? Does that answer your question, Chris? Okay, so that's a way of using a subfolder. In other words, let's say you have a current site. If Rose June was here, I'd make an example out of here. So let's talk about her behind her back, right? Because I hate her. I don't like her at all, right?
Hey man, it's on the internet.
I know. That's what I don't like her at all.
So you must really be.
So, in other words, getting back to me, in other words, she has her portfolio site at the root of her domain. She's currently working on a WordPress install in a subfolder. Once she's done with that WordPress install, she does not need to move that install to the root of her domain. All she needs to do is copy that index file to the root of her domain and point to the WordPress folder. Okay? We'll take a look at that in theory later on down the road. Okay? Going back here. So, in my case, I now have, really? Look at that. That's not what I want. Apparently, when it extracted it, it put it in a separate, yay. That's good that I caught that. Give me a second. I'm going to delete that out of here. We'll go back to my desktop.
Maybe we'll just do something with this here.
Yeah, I mean, you can pick on somebody. Yeah. And that's not picking but I thought there was something. First, but
When you guys downloaded that and you extracted it, did it have a WordPress folder within a WordPress folder?
Yes.
Yeah.
It did?
Yes.
Yeah, but you have to remove the extra one.
No.
Weird. Okay. That's really stupid.
So you just
Is that,
take the one out, maybe?
I take the one out, because what I want to have is, that's good to know. Macs don't do that. Yours didn't?
Well,
Or did or did not?
these
Right, your
usually
Mac
don't
didn't.
do that either. They usually don't double it like that.
Well, whatever. Let's go back here, and here's what you should have. Okay? In your local set,
But now
you should have, in your local set, you should have WordPress, again, mine is labeled Spring 15, whatever. You should just have a WordPress folder. I want to then publish, put that to my remote. How do I do that?
when I deleted it, it deleted the whole file. So mine just.
Janelle, you can also do this afterwards as well. Alan,
Log on to your remote.
okay? Oh, good, you raised your hand to answer that. Awesome. Well, first you're gonna have to log onto your remote, but if I select this folder right here, okay, this button, put, should dependent files be included in the transfer?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so again, what I want to be doing is I want to be publishing this WordPress folder to my remote server. So Janelle, just go ahead and download it again.
I mean, I can't even use any of the tools. Nothing's working.
What do you mean nothing's working?
I can't log on to my Dreamhost. I can't get the stream to work correctly. I can't do anything. So I'm just like getting further behind. So
Okay,
maybe-
well, good thing this is a videotape.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't mind if you guys just sit here and watch and do it on your own time. I could care less, as long as you get things done, okay? Right? So, as we're putting this to our server, again, I'm breaking out my waiting man pants. Okay?
I have a question while we're waiting.
Sure,
So,
good. This will kill some time, thank you.
so I got a WordPress class before and needed the one-click install.
Uh-huh.
So what should I do? Like I've already had it set up on my site. Should I move it to like a subject?
So let me answer it like this. Have you already set it up and you're just ready to go?
It's already set up. I have templates and stuff, but I was wondering, since it's like on my domain, like Lisa.com.
Right, is that the environment that you are gonna be doing your work in this class?
I don't know.
Okay, so here's how I'm gonna answer that.
Okay.
If you already did a one-click install and you're just sitting here waiting to start doing your settings and that kind of stuff, right? Okay, I'm not gonna, whatever, right? Doing it this long way, again, from what I hear on the street, Raven does the one-click install, 6 to 1, half a dozen the other. I'm doing it this way specifically for a purpose that down the road you're gonna have to use. So right now at this point in time, it's important-ish, but if you've already, in other words, do you have the one-click install in a WordPress folder on the domain that you're gonna be using?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
If I wanted to move it to like a subfolder,
Mhm.
can I do that?
You could, but you're gonna have to change some settings within the admin. So in other words, you are going to, and we'll take a look at it here in a few minutes,
Okay.
where you can then, while this is uploading, let me show you.
Okay.
Let me address this
Yeah, I
question.
think it'd be fun.
Great way to kill time while this is uploading. So if I went to my proto site here, right? And right now you can see it is in a WordPress folder, okay? Now it's not pulling it from the root of my domain, web170.premiumdw.com WordPress, because I haven't told it to, okay? But essentially I could tell it to. So either one or two things has happened. You have all the WordPress files at the root of your domain, or you have them in a subfolder, okay? If you have them in a subfolder like this, here is the settings down the road that especially, Nick, you can attest to, when you migrate from one server to the other, Rian, you can attest to this, right? Especially if you have things in a WordPress folder and you are putting it to another domain in a, let's say, face folder. I don't know where I'm pulling that from, just from somewhere, right? I pick on Rian because I can't stand her. I love her to death. We've done work, again, she's been worth money to me. That's all I'm saying, right? So if I log in then, with my super strong password, and we go under settings, general, here's what we'll have. WordPress address, web170.premiumdw.com/WordPress. Site URL, blah, 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 WordPress. Well, if we had this in a subfolder, but wanted it to be at the root of the domain, we would then later on at a later date or whenever we were choosing to do this, we would say our site address is da-da-da.com and destroy it. Then we would put that index folder or index file at the roots of our domain and point to this folder. So when you're migrating WordPress from one server to another, you have to go through this step. So this is one of the reasons why I'm teaching you guys to do it this long way, is because you're going to have to migrate and go through this down the road at some point in time. Make sense?
Yeah, and I think my site's actually at the root of my domain.
Okay, so if your site is at the root of the domain, Alicia, you have one of two options. A, keep it there and move on with your day. B, do this and put it in a subfolder and do it the long way. I'll leave that up to you.
Oh, so you just go through the process again?
Yes.
Oh,
In other words, I can have multiple installs of WordPress wherever I want to. So currently what I'm doing by having this install, my demo, Mike's and Kuba's WordPress demo, in a WordPress folder, right? That's one install on web170.premiumdw.com. Right now, I am attempting to have another install, WordPress Spring 15. So it looks like it has put everything up to my domain. So if I do this, right? So in other words, I have 2 installs of WordPress on one domain right now, okay? So if I then try to go and access WordPress Spring 15, right? Because that folder exists. Really?
Well, just hit continue.
Yeah, I was going to say. Before getting started, we need some information on the database. You will need to know the following. I was expecting a can't link to database, right? So in other words, what we need to do is we need to create a database and connect to it. Okay? Is everybody ready to create a database? Yes? Okay. So again, if you're in the DreamHost environment, I can say under Toolbox, MySQL Databases.
So how do we get, so do we need to log into our database? We need to log into.
To DreamHost or whatever ISP you're using.
Okay, so if I just go to my DreamHost and then I have to actually log into the, like the admin or something?
Yeah, you have to log into your panel. You have to log into your admin. Yes, the
Okay.
DreamHost admin.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see here that I have lots of databases. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, so you can see here right now, I have WEB170 premium DW dot, or WEB170 underscore premium DW underscore com. That's kind of the naming convention that I've been using. You can use whatever naming convention you want to use, right? But one way, shape, or form, in WordPress, I need to create a new database. Database name, Web170-SP15 underscore premium DW underscore com. Okay. You can label your database whatever, you can label it poop for all I care, right? But I would give it a name that means something to you.
If I perhaps created a database last quarter for IT40, should I be using that one?
No. No, no, not at all. Okay. Well, that's true and not true. What's going to happen is, we'll take a look at the tables. But what is going to happen is you created tables in that database for ITC 240.
Thank you.
You created your own tables. So what WordPress is going to do is, what WordPress is going to do, let me see if I can just access it right now. I don't know if I have the correct username or not. Yay. So, let's say this. Okay. So here is, let me go back one. Here is a whole unorganized schema of databases that I have logging into one user, right? In other words, the username, Emson Kula, and the password that I used logs into all the databases for that user, right? So here is 2014 Premium DW. So if, in other words, each one of these are separate databases accessing using the same PHP MyAdmin. Oh. WordPress is going to write its own tables, okay? So if you use the same database, it is going to write those tables, and the tables that you used from ITC 240 and the WordPress tables could coexist. They could coexist nicely. After a while, it's just going to be a nightmare to manage. So what I would always recommend is every time you are doing a separate WordPress install, especially if you are going to be doing WordPress install after WordPress install, I always recommend create a new database. And here's one of the reasons why. Take a look at what we have right here. WP_R2222, right? So you can tell one WordPress install from another because it will put a unique identifier for each one of those tables. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so yeah, create a new database is and I would always create a unique user. In other words, I have, one of the reasons why, does anybody remember that my website was crashing there for a while, a lot? One of the reasons why it's crashing a lot, or has been crashing a lot, is because I have a ton of WordPress installs running under the same user. Okay, now to fix that problem, I would have to go back and reconfigure a shitload of websites. Yes, I said a shitload of websites, okay, which I just don't feel like doing. So what I've been doing now is, and what I'm going to do now is, for security's sake, I am going to create a new user that I don't care if you have the username or password on the video. I don't care. Why? It's just going to be WordPress stuff. I don't care if you access it. But don't. Because if I come into class and you have fucked with my database, I'm going to be pissed. Scouts on it. Scouts on it. Okay. So, going back here to DreamHost. So what I'm going to do is, again, create a new database. I've named it whatever I want to name it. I am going to use the host name, which basically means that if I need to, is everybody familiar with PHP MyAdmin? Okay. If you're not, what I was just looking at.
I'm using admin.
Okay. 6 to 1, half a dozen the other.
Okay.
I think. Bill uses PHP MyAdmin 240, right? No? Command line?
Admin.
Okay, admin? Okay. One way, shape, or form, PHP MyAdmin is a piece of software that is an admin for databases, right? It's a very, very common one. DreamHost uses this one to access your tables, right? You can use it using another admin. You can use it or access your database using command line, right? Whatever. So when I access this database, look at the URL structure, right? WEB170, premium DW, blah, 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 MySQL, MySQL.web170. So if I ever want to access this database, right, how I would access this database if I, let's say, closed this window and created a new window, and I typed in mysql.web170.premiumdw.com, that's where it's going to ask me for a username and password. Because I already put in another username and password, it just kicks me in there, okay? But that's how you would access the tables of your database to either, so when I'm taking a pre-existing install and migrating it to a new server, right? I basically create a database on their server, access it through PHP MyAdmin to then import the database into. Does that make sense? Okay. So MySQL, blah, 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 user, create a new user now. WEB170, how's that for a new user? New password, WEB170, too short. Let me try to write it down. Let me make something up. WEB170, let's try this. Good, yay. Okay, add a new database name. More information, error, processing my request. Add database name. Huh. WEB170, oh, I can't use numbers in my database. That's not good.
I love you to that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I use WEB170.
Maybe that's what the hyphen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Was it good? You sure? You sure?
Okay, so we're creating a new database within our,
Error. One more error. User WEB170 is already taken. How about that? Let's write this down. Database name. See how I'm writing stuff down right now, you guys? Are you guys writing stuff down? Madeline, is it something you can ask?
Yes, I was wondering, is that for the whole server or just our database? Like, is that, you said WEB170 is already taken, is that for your own database? Or-
Because I believe I already used WEB170 as a username for my demo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I typed it in and it wasn't responding quickly, so I did, we're gonna try it again and then it's gonna review.
Oh, okay. So you used it once already, and yeah. Because you didn't log into my panel, did you?
No, I did not.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. I can even see that.
Okay. So blah blah blah. Username, password, host name. This is going to be right here. Host name. This is going to be instead of localhost. This is what we are going to be using as our host name. Write that down.
oh, my dream was, I'm sorry.
Version 70. All right, add new database. Let's see if that goes through. What? What error now? All lowercase, please. Oh my, Jesus. What was that whole thing about heuristic analysis? Add new database now. Let's see it go through. Yay!
Next time is the charm.
Okay, so I've set up my database, WEB170 _ lowercase spring 15 _ premium DW _ .com. You must always use your host name to connect to your database. Again, localhost will not work. Okay, so connect your new database from the command line, mysql.web170.premiumdw.com, et cetera, et cetera. So this is then the host name that we're going to be using. Okay, so does everybody have written down somewhere database name, username, password, hostname.
This is
again-
the one that you've already created a long time ago.
No, this is the one that we're creating right now.
Okay, so every database is gonna have a different. Okay, so I'm on the creating a new database, and it's going to my same Dreamhoster's address. Is that right? The one that I already have. Pretty.
Yes.
So like mine's mellybelly.dreamhosters.com
For your,
for my Dreamhosters account.
I don't know what exactly,
I'm just trying to understand what you're doing. So
Doug, you got it? So again, the 4 criteria that we need: database name here, username here, DB password here, localhost. Instead of localhost, you're going to be, so let me show you, let me open up something and hopefully I have done it correctly.
that's what I'm wondering. Is this what I'm trying to figure out is if I use the same database that I have, is it gonna wipe out everything that I have?
You should be creating a new database.
So are we going to be editing a file that we just uploaded to our server? Those credentials?
Yes. Okay. So what you're going to have to do, and something happened in Dreamweaver here, and it's asking me to relink to.
No, that's a different.
Yes. So those credentials then are. Let's go back to the lecture page. What you are going to do is take that config sample and save it as WP config. Get rid of the sample, okay? And then put those credentials in there, and hopefully your WordPress install will access your database, right? So here's what you're gonna do. Upload to server, open config sample. Again, you're gonna see this information right here. You will need to define your name, DB user, DB password, DB host, okay? You are gonna then save, once you put that information in, you are gonna save that sample file alongside as wp-config with that information in it. So you should always just have your sample file there, the WordPress dummy one, right? And then so what it's gonna look for, that install is going to then, your WordPress install is gonna be looking for your WP config file to connect to your database. Once it connects to your database, the next time you go to the site, it's gonna say, welcome to your blah, 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 blah. Put in a title, give it the first username, password twice, etc. Okay? So, let's go back to Dreamweaver. So if I'm on my remote server, okay, and if I open up that config folder, so in other words, I've already got that WordPress folder on my server, and I have that WP config folder. Let me open that up and see if it's. Yes, okay, good. I don't care if, right? So what I did was database, username, password, host, MySQL, etc. Okay?
And then that file, right, for code security.
In terms of,
What I did the last time was, well, just like, not, you don't want to have all these files sitting around that have your credentials in there,
in where?
in that file. So like if you're assuming your computer's secure, because it's looking at it on your
Server?
computer
Yes,
and your server.
yes.
But if you want to be like super safe, you could remove that file.
I don't know much about that
From like
type.
your local.
Oh, from your local, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you should never upload it to GitHub.
Yeah.
How many of you have ever uploaded a password to GitHub?
Not my own.
Okay, so what I want to do then is, here on the remote server, like I said, I have that config sample. Right? And what I want to do is put in the database name. WEB170 underscore SP15 premium DW underscore com. Username WEB170 underscore SP lowercase, because it made me do lowercase. Password here, again, this is the password that now is on Google Hangout, that you guys are not going to crack into my database. Thomas would probably shit his pants if he saw this right now. What's up, Thomas? I know you're watching. 70. Post. Well, it let me do that, I think, didn't it? Okay, well, I'll check and see if it's, well, let's do this. Because I didn't close that window. Ah, your database, oh, look at that. Check me out. Yeah, don't do this. I'm doing it. Kidding, something like this, whatever. Thank you for pointing that out. Host.
Yeah, correct. Linux is so much work.
Okay, so I am going to save as wp-config.php. And I'm saving this in my Spring 15 folder. You're just saving it in your folder. I don't know if I did the whole upload to server on save thing. I did not.
So where am I saving this to exactly in my folder separately from?
You are saving it right alongside. In other words, you should have opened up WP config sample.
Okay.
And you are saving it as WP config right next to it. Okay. So you should have on your server, and you can delete the sample one if you really, you know, if you're like, oh my God, it's taking up 3 kilobytes of space. I can't have that, right? So you can delete that if you want to, right? But again, with this config file now, hopefully up there, hopefully when I go back to this setup, right? Or if I do this, if I go back to,
So we should put this up on our server, right?
yes,
Like our whole 170 file.
the whole install.
Yeah.
Yes. So if I go back to web170.premiumdw.com/WordPress-SP15, right? My WordPress install should be there, and because I just updated the config file, it should go and access the database. Let's see what happens. Let's see what errors I get. English. So far, so good. Continue. Here we go. Welcome. In other words, it accessed my database. So the next thing I want to do is I want to create a site title.
Here's my question for you. Never mind.
So I'm going to label mine Mike Sinkula's WEB170 Spring 15 demo. Username. You guys create whatever username and password you want to. I'm going to go with something that, you know. My email. So here's what's going to happen when you put in your email. Brian, you need the TA. When you need the TA, just do this. That way, I'll know what's a question for me and what you need the TAs. That's so wrong, isn't it? Now you understand why I've never wanted to videotape my lectures ever. Right? You understand this? Okay, so I'm going to put in my email address. Here's what you probably will not want to do. I would disallow search engines from indexing this right now. Okay?
Thank you. You're
Okay.
the best friend.
All right, so if I install WordPress, WordPress has been installed. How many have gotten this far?
I'm getting there, I'm so close.
How many of you have just totally given up?
No, I haven't.
You got there?
No. Okay. Can you let us catch up a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to log in, and then I'll let you guys catch up. Three tomatoes were walking down the street. I can't remember how the rest of the joke goes, but one tomato slaps the other and says, catch up.
Oh, God.
Because I think the baby tomato was falling behind.
Don't.
That or it was a bottle of vinegar that slapped the tomato and said, catch up. I can't remember.
That would be better.
I've lost it, Dory.
Yeah.
I've gone.
2 hours in a row is not good.
Dude, and then after this class, right, I'm here till 9
Oh,
But
lecturing.
you know what?
Yeah.
We have to be with him for 2 classes.
that's a good point.
So that's our joy.
Yeah.
That's your choice.
It's our joy.
Yeah.
And our makes my Tuesday, I mean, my Mondays and Wednesdays.
All right. So
Fantastic.
once you have connected, yay, welcome to your new site, and then we'll start talking about settings. So who needs my help? Yeah.
We actually need to have our hosting MySQL
Yes.
No. You're okay. So let's go back to this, right? So everybody back up here is a relevant question. Okay. So take a look at my host names. Okay. I have a whole shitload of sites, right? I don't care about that I'm cussing any longer. It's just, I gotta be who I am, right? So I have a shitload of sites, okay? Each one of them has its own host name that the database is sitting within. So what you should have done when you went to create a new database is, if you're creating a database, in other words, if you're just installing this WordPress folder on, where are you putting this?
on my.
ChristinaFernandez.com?
Yeah.
Okay. So you should, was there an option for hostname MySQL ChristinaFernandez.com?
That's where I have it, and then I could just create a new one. So I was just wondering, do I have to make, like
Put it this way.
one?
If you are, no. If this folder is packaged under ChristinaFernandez.com, I would use MySQL ChristinaFernandez.com. It's ChristinaFernandez.com. Okay. So yeah, I should have said that. You should be using whatever, in other words, wherever I'm putting this, since I am putting these, in other words, I've created a subdomain for Premium DW, web170.premiumdw. Since I've created that subdomain, right? It is then installing PHPMyAdmin there, I think, or utilizing PHPMyAdmin there. Okay, does that make sense?
So that's what I was asking you. So I have already my server, my host,
Yeah.
whatever. So I just created another database under that. That's what you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
you should be, so let's put it this way. The difference between server and domain name.
And then I created a WEB170 database underneath of that.
Sure.
Okay.
Whatever you do, like I said, it could be poop that you named the database. It doesn't matter, right? But basically, the difference between server and domain, right? If I go to manage domains, I have one DreamHost account, one, right? That I spend, who can guess how much I spend on, we just did our taxes. I just printed out how much I spent in 2014 on my hosting. Who can guess?
129.99.
Nothing.
Really?
500. Whoa.
Ooh.
I'm up in the
1,000.
600 and something range that I'm spending a year on hosting.
Different ones?
Because the speed I need because of all these domains, right? So on one account, on one server, right, I am hosting all these names, okay?
So DreamHost is in my server.
Yes.
The Pagan Love Fest.
What?
Pagan Love Fest?
That's the band I was in college. So for instance, hold on. For instance, if you go to paganlovefest.com, I have not uploaded our songs yet, but
Wow, look at that.
Wow.
Nice.
Oh.
so yeah, so I have a bunch of domains that I have registered with DreamHost. Okay, so every time I am connecting to take a look at what's happening here. Okay, so home Msankula, that is my server, my DreamHost account that I'm logging into. Then I'm also using the pathway of web170.premiumdw.com, which is a URL, a domain. Premiumdw.com is a domain that I have registered and am hosting on DreamHost, on my server, on my account on DreamHost. Web170.premiumdw.com is a subdomain, okay? So if I am looking at premiumdw.com here, clients dropped jetcityimprov.premiumdw.com. So this was the subdomain where I was developing the Jet City project. Projects, real self, again, realself.premiumdw.com. This is where I'm doing the prototype, the development work for that real self website. So you come down here, and I have then a subdomain web170.premiumdw.com that I am logging into. So that's where if we go back to DreamHost or back to Dreamweaver, Dream this, Dream that, whatever, right? And I look at my site definition. Oh, I closed that again. Come on. Manage sites. Done. Window. Files. There it is. So if I then go to manage sites, this is where I am on a private server, which is one of the reasons why my hosting, because of all the crap I have, I've had to go to a virtual private server. So I'm on ps1678.dreamhost.com. Okay. Username and password, root directory. So once I log into the server, then I'm in a directory of web170.premiumdw.com. Does that make any sense to anybody? Notice how we just had that conversation. Well, hopefully all of you have caught up now. How many of you now are at
So I'm right here, so, like naming the site, is there anything like?
you can name it, just name it something temporarily, and we're gonna show you where that exists.
Okay, and then like my username, doesn't matter what you want us to use our name, so you can.
Use whatever, I'm not in that discussion. You can
Okay.
use whatever username and password
Okay.
you want to. Okay, so let me ask you guys as a class, back up here, everybody. How many of you have got to the point where you have now have WordPress up and running on your server?
Almost, well, I guess.
You're there, you're almost
Okay.
there. How many of you do not and need help still?
Do I want to allow search engines to index the site? No.
So, let's do this. Let me run through the settings that you're gonna need to look at, right? We'll end this lecture, and then we'll come around and help the rest of the time. Then on, so again, if we go to my schedule, right? This week, installing WordPress, setting up and customizing WordPress options, installing and using a pre-developed WordPress theme, and installing and using plugins. We should be able to do these two on Wednesday together. Again, look at those, right, before class. That may help. Again, printing out the directions may help as well. You can take notes. Whatever is going to help is whatever is going to help. So now I want to take a look at setting up and customizing WordPress options real quick. It's not a whole lot of them, right? Then we can close out the lecture, and I have until, 7:15, my next class starts, right? That we can help everybody that's not up to speed. Sound good? Okay. So, setting and customizing WordPress options, okay? So right now, if you go to the front-facing version of your site, meaning if you have uploaded this,
Do I go to customize your site?
hold on. So I'm going to close some windows here. So if I'm here, we're here in our dashboard, okay? So welcome to the WordPress admin. Yay! Okay. So nobody else cares? Yay! Thanks, Lord. I'm only looking to you for moral support.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're here in your WordPress admin, right? Again, the name that I put in there, you saw me do site title. Okay. Site title then Mike Sinkula's WEB170 Spring 15 demo. Okay. Well, that then, if I go and visit sites, it's going to show up in a couple of different places. The way this theme, so we are using, if we look under the hood, okay? If I look at the site files and I'm on the remote server and I go to WP Content Themes, we are right now using WordPress's out-of-the-box 2015 theme, okay? So you can see that this theme is really pretty robust, okay? I would not recommend, like I said, for anybody that is a web designer or wants to be a web developer that is studying here at Seattle Central. I would not recommend going and taking a pre-existing theme and bastardizing. What I would recommend, because again, we're going to work on one from scratch. What I would recommend is, if you have themes like this, go ahead and pop under the hood and see how they are doing things. Okay? For instance, we can see that they are using in the body tag the body class function. Well, we're going to get to the body class function sooner or later down the road, where that body class function, what it does is, if you are on a page, it will write into your body tag class page. So let's say in your CSS you want to do something specific to pages and only pages versus doing something specific to postings. Or let's say you want to do something specific to the front page versus all the others. You can say and use that body class in your CSS, okay? So title tag, they're not doing their title tag where I can see it. Oh well. If we look at a lecture that some of you maybe have looked at in the past, those of you that were in my Writing for the Web class, I wrote this posting, Search Engine Optimization in WordPress without using a plugin. Okay? We are going to get to utilizing this in terms of writing our own title, right? Instead of using WordPress's default way they write their title tag, or using a plugin like the all-in-one SEO pack from Yoast or some of those others. So what I do in terms of whatever, in other words, logos, portfolio, Premium Design Works, Seattle, Washington. Premium Design Works, right there. That was the site title that you just put into WordPress when you were configuring things, okay? So when we get to it, we are going to use the function blog info name to retrieve the site name, okay? So what we need to do is, if, like Janelle, you were saying, oh, what do I use as my site name? I'm just trying to get this thing up and running. Well, whatever you used, you can change later, okay? So let's see, let me go to my notes here.
So if you hit getting started, that's when you go like other colors and all that.
Yeah. So, oh, one of the things that we didn't do yet. Edit your profile. So when we're in the dashboard, under users, then we should see that the username and password that we put in when we set it up, right? We now have our username, our email address. We are an administrator. We have one post assigned to us. Administrator is the highest level of privilege that you can give to somebody, meaning they can access everything within the site, okay? Notice though, however, name is missing, okay? So when we are making postings, for instance,
You could change the username.
yeah, yes, hold on. So for instance, if we are doing something like, again, I'll go back to this real self one. And let's say Mike Sinkula has written this posting, right? And he wrote it in Latin because he totally knows Latin, right? Thank you. I'll be here for a long time. So if I then click on Mike Sinkula, right? Or let's say that name that I haven't put in yet, we can display our name as our regular name, as our username, etc. Furthermore, if we click on that we can also pull in a gravatar and the name and the description of who we are. So if you've ever been on websites and you want to sort by author, right? This is one way of doing that. So does anybody do you guys know what gravatars are? Okay, if you do not, it kind of annoys me when, I'll just tell it through my lens, right? When you guys comment on my website and your little icon, your photo doesn't show up, it's because you've never put in you've never created a gravatar with your email. So.
It's like an avatar, right?
Yes, except it's a gravatar, globally recognized avatar. So, for instance, if we go down to the bottom of this page, and I say, oh, I'm logged in already. But has anybody ever seen when you're not logged in, it says, don't forget to get your globally recognized avatar? Anybody? Who's ever done that? One person. Thanks a lot. So, gravatar.com, if you want your picture to start showing up associated with your WordPress install and whatnot, you are going to have to go, Gravatar, these guys are associated with WordPress. I think the creator of WordPress and the creator of Gravatar are sure enough the same person. Don't quote me, I don't know exactly. But one way, shape, or form, I would encourage you to create a Gravatar, so that way, that's how these things work, okay? That's how then your, or my photo shows up here, okay? So if I want to now edit my username or this user.
Is it gravatar.com?
Yes. I want to put in first name, last name, nickname, display name publicly as, my full name, websites, biographical information, that's good enough for right now, right? If you ever want to change your password, right? Let's say you are creating an admin user for...
We change our, usernames cannot be changed.
Uh-huh.
You can't change it.
No.
Okay, but if you put your first and last name, you can make that anything you want?
Yes.
Like if I want.
Usually you should put your first and last name in.
Right, but then it says display name publicly, you can't pick a different. Okay, never mind, we'll get there.
So if you have ever, like what I do is when I'm doing websites for WordPress sites for a lot of people, I am then setting them up like I'm creating users for them. And I typically create a temporary password for them that's like change this ASAP, right? And then they are going to go in and change their password, right? So if you ever need to change a password, that is indeed where you would change it. I'm going to update my profile, and now if and when my name is going to be displayed publicly on the website, it is going to be displayed as Mike Sinkula. Your Gravatar accesses your email address, okay? So you can have different Gravatars for different email addresses, right? Okay.
So I don't have a website.
Doesn't matter. Don't worry. So setting up and customizing WordPress options. So let's see the options that we need to then. So log into WordPress, right? Again, if you are, let's put it this way. If I log out, right? So if I'm here, you can log into the website one of two ways. Typically, a lot of WordPress sites have the little login button. This right here is being done through a widget, through a plugin widget, right? If you've ever noticed on my website, way down here in the bottom right corner, currently I'm logged in, right? But if I wasn't logged in, so if we were on my business website, has anybody ever seen the login thing on my websites and wondered what the hell that was about? It's basically my clickable link to log into my WordPress admin, okay? You can do it that way, or, right, so they have the login here, or a lot of people don't really want to display a little login button because that kind of encourages hackers, right? But if somebody knows you're a WordPress site, they can then do the following. WP-admin brings you to your login screen. Log into WordPress, blah, 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 blah. So we want to customize our general settings, okay? So here, let's just stay here on this screenshot for a second. And if you need this screenshot bigger, it's not really bigger, but whatever. So over on the left-hand side is where we then have posts, media, pages, comments, appearance, plugins, users, tools, settings, okay? General writing, reading, discussion, media, permalinks, okay? So let's see what settings we need to adjust. Writing settings, okay? The writing settings control the interface when writing new posts. Reading settings. Few in number, but this is where you may want to decide if you want a static front page or your blog feed as a front page, okay? So for instance, I'll probably have one WordPress install admin open after another and forget where the hell I am, right? But if I go to settings, here I'm under my Premium Design Works one, right? This is where then site title, Premium Design Works, tagline, logo design, print design, web design, and development. This right here is the kind of SEO tagline that I would encourage you to do, okay? So when I show you the title tag, the way I set up my title tag.
So let me ask you for this, what we're working on right now, should we be thinking, when we're setting this up, should we be thinking towards the site we're working on? As far as putting this stuff in, or are we just gonna?
Just use this as a demo,
Okay.
and yeah. So in terms of the title tag, right, on my home page, on my front page then, is where I present to the Google machine my sort of SEO global, what do I do? Like the services that I provide. Was anybody in my Writing for the Web class? Okay, so remember when we kind of went through that, like what's your sort of tagline, right? And it could be search engine optimized, okay? So again, in the title tag that we're gonna write down the line, then this is where we're gonna say, if we're on the front page, get the site tagline, okay? So in that site tagline, then, logo design, print design, web design, and development. Again, here's the WordPress address URL or the site address URL. Again, I don't have this in a subfolder, right? It's pulling just at the root of my domain. I typically don't say anyone can register. I don't want people trying to register for my sites. Default role, we can say whatever default role we want to, right? But again, since I'm not saying anybody can register, right? Time zone, Los Angeles. I mean, they could have had Seattle, right? But whatever. LA, time format, week starts on Sunday, okay? So if we are in here, under settings, general, this is where, again, the one site title that I put in when I was putting it in, Mike's and Google's WEB170 Spring 15 demo. Again, you can change it to whatever you want to change it to. Typically, I will put in the business name of whatever business it is, right? Jet City Improv, Rehabilitation Institute of Washington, Premium Design Works, Robot Monkeys, whatever, you know, whatever it is. Tagline. I can just remind myself to put in a better search engine optimized tagline. And this is where I use that tagline for a specific instance for search engine optimization. You can just say, you know, something like, WordPress demo, right? And you can pull that tagline in a few different places. If we go back to the root of this, now it's pulling the tagline. I'm putting together a WordPress demo. Right? I don't generally use these two portions in my live content area for my theme much. Okay.
Anyone can register?
I would not do anyone could register.
So when you make when we integrate our templates into a WordPress site, and let's say we're building our chiropractor's website.
Right. I'm going to say that's down the road for a bit. We're almost out of time,
okay,
so let's
let's
get to this. So next, writing settings. You can then
And what about new user default? We'll just subscriber.
don't worry about that right
Okay.
now. Okay. Writing settings. I really wouldn't worry about this too much. Reading settings. Okay. This is where you can say, front page displays my latest blog feed, my latest postings, or I can select a static page. This is where on my Premium Design Works websites, right? This is where my front page is a static page. Yes, it has my blog feed on it, but only because I wrote this as a secondary loop, okay? This is still being pulled from a template page, okay? Let's see, settings, what are the reading settings? So a static page, discussion settings. We're not gonna really put in comments in this one, but this is where you can, you know, fill out how many comments, et cetera, et cetera. Media settings. This is going to be really, really important down the road. Don't worry about it right now, but take a look at this. Thumbnail, medium, large size, okay? So down the road, when we start uploading some photos, right? WordPress then will kick out different sizes of those photos, meaning here on my home page, this is my thumbnail size, okay? This is the large size. Those are two different images that are stored in the uploads folder, okay? So if I then Well, we'll get to it down the road. Just like I said, I have a whole lecture on uploading the media stuff. Just know that if and when you upload a photo into WordPress, right? I typically recommend that you upload a 1024 by 768 photo, right? Because it's usable. That will be the original size image that might come up in the light box, right? Then WordPress makes 3 other sizes by default, okay? So thumbnail, medium, large, right? Thumbnail size, obviously. Medium could be half the content area. Large could be the full content area. So according to your grid system, right? Again, I use the 960 grid. So my large size would be 620. My medium size would be, I think, 300, right? My thumbnail size would be 60 plus 60 plus 20, 140. Does that make sense? So just note that you upload a photo and WordPress will make 3 other files.
Then you change.
Okay.
We'll change.
If and when you change those, you then have to, let's say you develop a new theme and all your sizes are different, you then have to regenerate all those, right? Because it's going to go with the old image sizes, and that caught me for a long time. What the fuck is going on, man? I changed my image sizes. Why aren't all my images applying? Well, my older postings were still accessing the older sized images and displaying the older sized images. So if and when you redo a theme, you have to use a plugin called Regenerate Thumbnails to regenerate all your new media sizes for use. You can even
Does it just resize it every time you upload a new photo?
when you upload a new photo, it makes those 3 sizes.
It
Automatically makes those 3 sizes. Or let's say you need an extra large photo. You can tell WordPress to make an extra large size by putting that into your functions file. So you are not limited to just the 3 sizes anymore. That's something new to me. I thought you were limited to just those 3 sizes. So let's go back here to the settings and see media permalinks. Now, last thing I want to talk about is permalinks. Right now, your permalink structure is set to the default page number. How search engine optimized is that? So I typically use either month and name. Which one do I use? I think I've been using this one. I've had some problems when I've done custom structures, but don't worry about this now.
What does that mean? What does that even mean?
Permalinks?
Yeah.
So permalinks means right now, if we go to our site and I go to, let's say this posting here, it is saying query P equals 1.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let's say that I log into this now and change the permalinks to day name,
Okay.
save change, okay? And I go back and visit sites, and I go to Hello World. Now it says 2015-04-14 Hello World, okay? So that's how SEO works in terms of URL structure, right? Okay. That's it for today. Hopefully that was at least bearable to an extent. We have a lot of people in this class. Let me shut down Google Hangout and yeah.
But isn't it when you're doing your permalinks, don't you want to do it with the post name, so therefore it makes it searchable later on?
Yeah, that is the post name. Hello World is the post name.
Oh, the first one didn't have it,
Oh,
but when you changed it, yeah.
I see.
I must have fell asleep, okay.
So Mike,
Hold on, let me stop.